Carlton is enduring a torrid, humiliating start to the 2015 season. It languishes at the foot of the ladder, has lost the faith of the supporter base and has become a target of ridicule. The place is a mess, John Elliott.
It certainly looks like it is.
Who's to blame, John?
Well, I don't know. I think the board, you've really got to start at the top with your board. They were squabbling about who was going to be the next president. But they finished off last year so well. I mean, Juddy played on and everybody thought he was going to retire. They lived in high hopes of really having a good year because they had a very bad injury season last year. And I think there were high hopes that a good chance of making the 8.
Does it hurt? I mean, you're watching this football team. It does, yeah?
I was yelling at the TV all afternoon. I thought it was lamentable. Really was. It's very, very despondent when you're a supporter.
Geez, wouldn't there have been some sackings if you were still in charge? you used to sack blokes who made the finals.
Yeah, I did. Well, I only sacked one mid-season, and that was Wolsey, and because he lost his players, and admits that, and the senior players didn't want to play for him. And when we were 1-11 for the year, I decided we'd better go, and we put Jezza in. But other than that, they were all done at the end of the season.
How many of your coaches have you sacked?
Well, Parker in 85, Wolsey in about 88, 89, Jezza in 91 and 91. Then Parker retired. He was there for a long time, easily the best coach during my era. Terrific man. Then the young bloke, what's his name?
Wayne Britton.
Wayne Britton. And then I appointed Pagan, and then I got sacked.
Yes. So Dennis was your appointment?
He was. Yeah, Wes and I appointed him.
Yeah, okay.
We told the committee after we'd done it.
Are you close enough to have a view about Mickey Malthouse's long-term future at Carlton? Do you think he's the long-term coach?
Well, I think he's got a pretty good record. I mean, it's not just the fact he's been there 31 years and he's been able to hang in that long shows he must know what he's doing. He's only won 3 premierships in 31 years. So I wouldn't rank him ahead of a Parkin or some of the Kennedys and some of the other great coaches. But the players love him. That's what I find amazing. I mean, I talk to Kernahan still a lot and talk to a few of the players. My mate Jimmy Buckley, his son's playing there. I chat around to them and they all love him. And you see them when they go into the press, they all want him to stay as coach. I don't think he'll stay unless they get close to the 8. That's about where they've got to get to now. Then he'd have a chance.
Ambitious from here, isn't it?
It looks like it. But they've got a few out. There's a few good players coming back in. They miss Simpson terribly. He's one of their best players. When he's out of the team, they lose a lot of movement.
Do you still go to the Carlton games?
I go to most of them. I decided after last Sunday I'm not going till they win again.
But that's not like you. I mean, you were the public face of the Carlton Football Club for so long, weren't you?
Yes.
And even when things did look good, and not as often as they have in recent years, but you were so brave and so optimistic about what the future was.
Yeah, well, we were always trying to do things to improve them. It was hard work then. Actually, as a committee man or as a president, you did more of your work between the seasons. You'd have to finish up all the accounts, and then you'd be trying to decide what players you wanted to get, and you could trade and all that sort of stuff. Once the season began, it was pretty much running the Saturday night, running the lunchtime game.
Do you accept any culpability for Carlton's current situation?
Oh, no, I left in 2001.
2002?
2002, wasn't it? Yeah, 2. Yeah. Well, that's,
but they were last then, John. I mean,
that's because we had 17 injuries. There were 17 players out of the team in the last game. We got up and beat Richmond, I remember that.
Yeah. But, the fact is, they were still last in your last year as president.
And it was their first wooden spoon.
See, as an outsider looking in, the demise of this football club is astonishing. I mean, it was, your view was that you had to win a premiership almost every year to be successful. Your membership was strong. Every time Carlton played, there were big crowds there. None of that anymore.
Well, if they started winning football matches, it'd all come back. That's what happens. So even Richmond, who started the year quite well, they were starting to get big crowds. Now they've slipped off. You'll find their crowds will drop away. Their
membership's a lot higher than yours.
It's a bit higher, yeah.
It's a lot higher. Best finish since 2000 is 5th. Well, this is sort of inconceivable in a historical context.
It is. Well, actually, I started barracking for Carlton in 1948. They won a premiership in 47. My first year at school, I went right through my school life, went right through university. We didn't win another one till 68. So it was 21 years. Now, if they don't win it next year, they will have broken the record since they were put in the VFL.
Your view, I reckon, when you this again the neutral observer's view about the Elliott years was that you had a quick fix philosophy. If you needed a player, you went out and bought him.
Yep.
If the team lost 3 or 4 in a row, you sacked the coach. It was sort of. Do you agree with that?
Well, it was very performance oriented.
Yep.
Yeah, but you've got to be. I don't think there's any. The funny thing about it, I reckon I got 3 questions in 19 years about the accounts at Carlton at the annual meeting. All they wanted to do was talk about the football. And if you'd won a premiership, everybody was happy as a lark.
Yep.
For a couple of years.
But you're on record as having no faith in the systems that the AFL implemented, the draft and the salary cap.
No, well, they disadvantaged the best clubs, the Collingwoods, the Carltons, the Estons, maybe the Richmonds.
But you were stubborn, weren't you? You didn't see this picture evolving. You still thought that you could do it under the.
Well, we did initially, because in '85, that's when Wes and I went out and recruited Kernahan, Motley, Bradley, Nailey, Dorotich, a whole string of them before the draft came in.
Yep.
So we had, in '86 we were in a grand final. '87 we won one.
So did you care at that time about actually the building from the bottom and getting draft choices and kids in, or did you think that you could just get the best players?
Well, you had to try and get the best players.
Which you did pre-draft.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure Carlton. I think Carlton was very slow to adapt to the new system.
Well, we then got Williams. That was a pretty good get in the early '90s.
But again, the same principle: get the best player and bring him into our team.
Exactly.
And not build from the bottom.
No, I think that's right. You've got to do both, of course, but if you can pick up a couple of good players, it makes a big difference. Because, you got to, in a footy team, you've got about half a dozen guys you need that are really champion players to win a flag, I think. And then you've got to have no injuries for the rest of them.
Well, Juddy aside, you don't have a champion at Carlton.
Well, I'd say there's a couple of very good footballers. I think Cade Simpson's an exceptionally good player.
Yeah, but your definition of half a dozen champions, you don't have them.
You've only got one. You've had one, Judd. Whether Cruiser ever gets there, I don't know. Whether Gibbs ever gets there, or Murphy. Yeah, Murphy's a pretty good footballer. They're both good when they go, but they're a bit inconsistent.
How bleak is your view of the Carlton future?
Oh, I don't think it's not that bleak.
It's not?
No, I think, you've got quite a number of players to come back into the team, but they'd have to play like they did towards the end of last year. See, they'd only beat Hawthorn, and they should have beaten Geelong twice last year.
But they're not convinced that best finish of 5th in since 2000.
Terrible.
That says it all, doesn't it?
It does.
No matter, regardless of the injuries or who's not playing at the moment, that says this has been a mediocre team at best for a long time.
And I think that's come about because of bad administration. They're all squabbling, swapping presidents. As soon as Dick Pratt got there, things started to improve because he started and they were short of money. The biggest mistake, the AFL made was not letting Carlton continue to play at Princes Park or Optus Oval, whatever you want to call it. We should be playing the 4 interstate games there. Then they would have built their new facility back a bit because there's no room to watch the game behind the goals. But and of course what Carlton had to do after that was to write off all those assets. We'd spent the money ourselves, raised it and spent it ourselves. It's near enough to 20 million. And the balance sheet had to be taken out because there was no football being played.
But some people, John, would say that you caused that because you refused to read the tea leaves and kept pumping money into this ground that wasn't going to be part of the big picture.
Well, it was because Graham Samuel told us we were going to close Waverley. I knew well in advance of anybody that Waverley was going to be closed and that we had to finish off Princes Park. It would be the number 2 ground. We're halfway through the redevelopment of that last stage and he rings me up and says, "Oh, you better stop that. We're going to build a new stadium down in Docklands." I said, "What? We're halfway through the contract." Couldn't stop it. It was costing us $8 million.
So there's no guilt on your part about this?
No, none at all.
You were duped on the way through. You had
Oh, there's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. My relationship with Mr. Samuel hasn't been too good ever since.
Despite your political affiliations?
Yes.
John, that stand that was called the John D. Elliott stand.
Yes.
Your name was removed from that.
Well...
Well, no, that's fact. I mean, how painful was that?
Well, one, I wasn't that keen that it be named after me in the first place. When they took it down, I just made a joke of it because I said, well, why do you want your name on a stand where nobody plays football there?
That's true, and it's practical, but it had to have affected you.
No.
It didn't.
No.
This football club that you're so heavily invested in.
Well, I love.
Yeah, loved, yeah. Isn't that almost the ultimate insult?
No, it's just Colo. You know what he's like.
Colo, your mate Ian Collins. You and he ran the footy club for probably 20 years, would you agree?
Oh, with Wes Lofts.
Yeah, okay.
And
now you don't talk to him?
no.
Whose fault?
Well, I think he made I still blame him for Carlton having to leave Princes Park. You know, he said he didn't sit in the meetings and all this, and he's running...
Because he's running Etihad, yeah.
But, I mean, I don't believe that.
So you're saying Colo's commercial interests at Etihad Stadium prevailed over his commitment to the
Well, I'm
Carlton
certain he was very keen for them to go there.
Could he have not been keen for them so that Etihad was a beneficiary and it was also for the betterment of the Carlton Footy Club?
It wasn't for the betterment of the Carlton Football Club. No, they should have at least kept 4 games at Princes Park.
You lost the position as president to Colo, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. He won the election. That's right.
And yet, before that, you'd been not inseparable, but you had...
Oh, no, we were never that close. Well, I respected his ability as a chief executive. In the end, a football club needs a good president, a good coach and a good chief executive. Now, we had those things pretty well in our good years.
When Colo challenged you, John, did you take offence at that?
No, I didn't in the end. I mean, I think politics in football is tougher than politics in...
The real politics?
The real politics of federal governments. It's tough.
And you fought that presidential battle in 2002 and lost.
Yeah.
Did you think it was a possibility, or did you think because you'd been so big at Carlton that inevitably you'd be returned?
No, I don't think we knew. I think the polls were running against us. I think because we'd won our first wooden spoon didn't help at all.
No. Wouldn't have sat comfortably with you.
No. Well, I mean, I inculcated into Carlton that you got to think about success all the time. And that's when everybody was happy.
Yeah.
I mean, the nights when we won premierships, there were only 2 of them when I was there.
Yep.
They were fantastic nights. Everybody just loved it. I mean, it really was great joy, and it went on for a week or so. It still does, I think, but it hasn't happened
But there
to
were
Carlton.
5 flags from 79 to 95, correct?
Yeah, about that. 79, 81, 82, 87, 95, yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
Amazing period of success.
Yeah.
When we come back, John, let's talk about what might have been on the political front.
Delighted to, Mike.
1988, John, you're the president of the reigning AFL Premier, VFL at the time. You're the president of the Liberal Party.
Yes.
There's a campaign in place to get you to stand for the federal seat of Higgins,
Correct.
which you would have won.
Yes.
You would have become the leader of the Liberal Party, and some of us believe you would have ended up in the Lodge 12 months later.
I think that's every chance that could have happened.
So it's gone sour, hasn't it?
Well, it hasn't gone sour. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because one guy wouldn't stand aside. Not much.
Roger Shipton?
Yeah, that's it.
Wouldn't stand aside from Higgins?
No.
Do you regret what was seen as your destiny by a lot of people, that you would lead this country?
I've never lived my life that way, Mike. I've always gone on, today and tomorrow is what I'm about. I always have been.
And no regrets? No recriminations?
If you sit and have regrets, what's it accomplish? I think you do your best. I've always had a view, and I've told my children the same thing. You barrack for Carlton, you vote Liberal, and you always do your best.
Yeah.
I've always done that.
There's a 4th rule, isn't there now?
Yeah.
If you want to get married...
you've got to... Yeah, the partner you're marrying has got to barrack for Carlton, or she's got to change over to Carlton.
You mentioned the 150th anniversary of the Carlton Football Club. Did John Nichols have a crack at you on the stage that night?
I think I missed it, but everybody told me he did.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. He didn't name me. He named 2 presidents, were a bit outspoken. I think he was talking about George Harris and myself. That's what people think.
A bit outspoken. Yeah. I'm interested in that from the point of view, we talked about Ian Collins and your relationship there.
We had a very good working relationship for many years.
I understand that, yeah.
And I actually, he then applied, he wanted to go, he was promised the job at the VFL. So he went there as sort of number 2, and they didn't select him in the end.
That's right.
And he went with my blessing then, because I thought he'd probably do a good job.
So there's Colo, there's Nick, and I'm not sure how deep that was, but he certainly did publicly criticise you, and there's Stephen Silvani, who clearly is at odds with you. Now, there are 3 massive names in the history of the Carlton
I
Football
wouldn't
Club.
say I'm at odds with Nick. I see Nick a lot. I saw him at the Essendon game. We were sitting down having a good chat. We're good mates.
Well, let me just... Stephen Silvani sat in that chair 2012. I asked him about you. This is what he had to say. How are your relations with John Elliott?
Let me put it this way, Mike. If you've got nothing nice to say about someone, say nothing.
Did you watch that show?
Yeah, I did.
How did you feel when you heard that?
Well, he could have, knowing the way he seems to feel about me, he could have said a lot worse.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
You've known his father. You've known the Silvani's father and son for probably best part of 50 years.
Champion football, both of them.
Was this born of the salary cap?
I think it was.
That was a mess, wasn't it?
It was. Came on.
Whose fault was that, John?
Oh, I got to take blame for it, but you know, we did have. I had two QC opinions to say that the salary cap and the draft were anti-competitive, and it came out actually after I ceased to be president. People forget that it didn't come out while I was president. Had I still been president, I would have gone straight to the Supreme Court, and we would have won that case. You got to remember that the NRL several years earlier tried to put in a draft, and they were taken to court and lost. That's why they don't have one.
But do you believe in the principle that the draft and the salary cap is important for the conduct of a healthy competition?
No.
You don't?
No.
So
It's quite healthy for many years before it. Now,
when Carlton and Hawthorn and those clubs won all the premierships?
Collingwood and Essendon.
Is that healthy?
Well, I think it is if you're a Carlton supporter. And the thing about football is all of the football supporters who love our game are passionate about their team pretty well.
They are.
There's not many who just go along to watch any game on a Saturday.
Correct. So how do we sustain that passion
Well,
if the bottom teams have got no hope of getting to the top?
Well, I don't know, because you've got to actually get enough members. You've got to get the money from somewhere. That's how you do it. Fortunately, there's always been a lot of wealthy Carlton supporters, and we've always been able to. When we went and got all those players in '85, Dick Pratt and I put our hands in our pocket and paid all the money out ourselves.
But you fell on hard times after that, didn't you?
Oh, later, yeah, in the early '90s.
Were you broke?
No, I've never been broke.
Never been broke.
But I lost about 20 million.
I remember you telling me that when I did a story with you for the Herald Sun in 2011. You were allegedly worth about 80 mil, and you dropped 20 in a couple of failed marriages and some legal bills, right?
Yeah, tough. I'll be more. It'd be 30.
30 mil. The one
See, that's you know, I got enough just to live on. I can't go running around the world as much as I used to, but I still look forward to today and tomorrow.
Yep.
See, and I'm an optimist about life. I think it's important to be that. If you're going to be a pessimist, you're going to have a terrible time here.
Sure. You turned 74 this year?
I will be late in the year,
Yeah.
By that time, I'm only 63.
I thought you were.
I'm 73.
You recently had your prostate removed.
Yep.
You've had this amazingly optimistic view about your longevity, and I think it's based probably on the fact that both your parents died in their 90s.
Correct. My grandmother was 96.
But did it shake you when you required the prostate surgery?
No, it didn't. I just said, well, that's another thing. I just hope it hasn't gone anywhere else, and it hasn't, which is good. I couldn't believe it. The surgeon told me I was a model patient. No,
You were a model patient, what, physically and emotionally?
Yeah.
I don't believe either of those.
Well, I was only in the place 2 days. I couldn't wait to get out, and I was up dressed the day after my operation, so I'd go outside and have a smoke.
How many model patients chew 30-odd fags a day and a couple of bottles of red?
I don't know. Well, it's interesting, though, that they didn't restrict me on those things.
They didn't?
No.
How are the fags going? How many?
Oh, I'm down to under 25 a day now.
Hand on heart?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I don't come on here to tell lies like some of your guests do.
Now, I don't want to sound like Billy Graham or something like that, but I mean...
You're sounding a bit like him.
What about the booze?
Oh, no, I just have a couple of whiskies a night, a couple of glasses of red for lunch.
Couples too, isn't it?
Yeah, two. Yeah, a couple of whiskies.
Hey, John, what are you doing now? You're a commodities dealer, is that right?
I do deal a bit in commodities.
What sort of commodities?
Iron ore, coal.
Yeah.
So agricultural products. I don't do a huge amount of it, but people come to me because they want to source things, and I can usually... The good thing in my favour is I can basically get to anybody in the country.
Still?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Pick the phone up and...
Yeah.
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 So if you wanted to ring Tony Abbott this afternoon?
I could ring him. Yeah. He'd talk to me.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as he's not in a meeting or something. I know him quite well. Good man.
And is the work to put bread on the table or just to keep you involved?
No, it's I still need to work to live in the manner to which I'm accustomed.
I want to ask you about a deal that most people associate with you at Carlton. That's the Cooter deal, which from memory was $4 million for 5 years, back-ended. Are you familiar with that deal?
I can't remember it. I mean, I got involved. Well, I used to have to get involved with Silvani and Bradley, the major ones.
Yep.
I'd get involved with. They'd want it to sort of happen that way. Yeah, it was done. Well, it was done when I was there. Yeah. I would have known about it.
But you,
but I don't think. I think Cooter was very generous to the club. He was always happy to back end his contracts, and that's the only way he could stay under the salary cap because he was a well-paid player. Deserved to be.
But doesn't that reflect poor management if you've got to actually load up this bloke's money at the back end because the salary cap is at its ceiling and the footy club's down the bottom?
Well, you know, I wouldn't say it's bad management. You've got to try and get the best players you can.
Yeah.
For the amount of money you've got.
Yeah.
So if you can back end a bit, it's fine.
Okay.
And you can also look, if you know there are people going to be retiring in a year or so, you're going to get out of that problem. Then it's quite easy to do. I think it's quite sound practice.
John, you once said this: we had some greedy players who shall remain nameless. How many are we talking about numerically? 2 or 3? 5?
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Are they still nameless?
Yeah.
Aaron Hamill was a Carlton favourite.
Was.
Suddenly up and left and went to St Kilda.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light on that?
I never understood quite why. He is the only player in my 19 seasons at Carlton who left. You know, went and played somewhere else.
Of his choice, yeah.
Of his choice, yeah. We tipped a few out over the years, but you got to. But he's the only player.
But you did face-to-face at some function, didn't you? Didn't you tell him about your dismay that
yes,
he'd chosen? Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody ever wanted to leave Carlton. It was amazing. It was a club that a lot of people wanted to come to.
Historically, John, if I were Brett Ratton, I'd say Carlton made a mistake when they turfed me out. Do you agree with that?
Well, I'm not sure. I wasn't there, so I wasn't in the inner sanctum at the time. I get the feeling that they felt he wasn't a good man manager. He used to... All the coaches were on this floor and he was upstairs. He didn't seem to interact as well with a lot of the players. As soon as Malthouse got there, they thought it was like chalk and cheese.
But by your definition, Ratton was taking this team into the finals.
Yeah, he was.
3 years in a row, and they were very stiff one year not to finish in the top 4.
Yeah. I really had nothing to do with it, but my only view, and it's still there today, is if you're going to change your coach, you've got to get a proven one. We had one shot at a new coach and it didn't work very well. They've got to be looking round and you say, well, where are they going to find him from? Well, I think the best place I'd be going to would be Western Australia. I'd chase the...
Johnny Worsfold?
Worsfold.
Who's had some time,
he had some good time at Carlton. Exceptional fellow, exceptional. Really top rate.
So that would
I
be
regard he and Kernahan as the 2 best people I've met in football.
Hey, John, a lot of the popular observation I reckon about you was that it was your fiefdom in the 80s and 90s.
No. Not true.
No?
We had a wonderful social club. Those people all knew it was their fiefdom. Everybody loved if you loved the Carlton Football Club, you loved success and you had to get it.
But you sacked a coach from Portugal, didn't you?
No, that was Wolsey.
Yeah. Weren't you in Portugal?
Yeah.
Didn't you tell Colo he's got to go?
Colo and Wes, yeah.
Wes. Your call?
Well, we all concluded. We just spoke. So not much point keeping him. The players don't want to play for him. Now, that's the one time we've done it without knowing who we were going to replace him with. And we had two choices. We had Ashman, who was coaching the 2s, or Jezza, who was coaching up in Canberra. So we opted for Jezza, and Jezza came back and sparked the place up. We started winning games. We won about 3 or 4 games before the season ended. So, but Jez's time was a bit out. He you know, he was a great coach back in '79, and this was now, was it '89 or something? He'd been out of the game. Probably kept him a year too long. And I remember we sat down at the end of the footy season, we need a change in coach, and we all looked at each other and said, what we need is Parkin back. We went and got him.
What's your favourite moment at Carlton, John? The one that you cherish most?
Oh, I think, you know, winning a premiership is the best you can ever get. I think that's the best moment. The other great one was when we beat Eston by a point in '99. Well,
that was your grand final, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Well, Cooter played the best quarter of football I've ever seen anybody play in my life.
Yeah.
He almost won it on his own. And Silvani obviously made a great speech that motivated everybody, and we got up by a point. Fraser Brown's tackle was outstanding.
That was the flag that got away from the Bombers, wasn't it? They definitely were the...
Well, North have told me categorically that they would never have been able to beat Eston.
No.
At the time.
And you guys actually, I think that was your premiership. It seemed like the grand final became almost secondary.
Well, we'd already arranged a night that night to thank the players for the seasons.
On the preliminary final night?
Yeah.
But it was a bittersweet day for you, wasn't it? Because didn't the Libs get turfed out that day?
Yeah, that's right. I was out handing out how to vote cards that morning in Eston, out in Justin Madden's territory.
Yeah.
And they'd say to me, oh, you might win the election, all these people, but you won't win the footy. Well, we won the footy and lost the election.
I know you don't harbour things that happened in the past and that you can't change, but is there a regret?
No, we'd like to have won a few more premierships. We probably should have, actually. I think I was chatting to Sticks a few months ago now, and he said, yeah, we really should have got a few more there between '87 and '95 because we had a pretty good team.
Who was your favourite player, John?
Oh, Stephen Kernahan. Outstanding man. Great leader of men. You know, he was easily the best, I think. And then when you walked into the rooms, you could tell who the captain was.
Yep.
And you went out in the ground, you could tell too. He was a terrific leader.
Then he became president in difficult circumstances.
Very difficult with the death of Dick Pratt, and then he filled in. Oh, he's a top fella, Sticks.
Yeah.
You know, becoming president isn't really his bailiwick in a sense, because he was never a great orator, and we know he can't sing, but a fantastic fella.
Did you counsel Sticks when he was in office?
Oh, he used to come in. We'd have lunch every 3 months. And he'd sometimes have a short meeting before or after just with me, and he'd pose a few questions. He'd say, what do you think we ought to do about this or that? So I just gave him my honest opinion.
Hey, John, you've been a giant in the Carlton Football Club history. There's no doubt about that. It didn't finish as well as you would have liked.
It isn't over.
No, I'm not talking
there.
about your life. I'm talking about your time at Carlton.
Well, I'm still a Carlton supporter.
Yeah, and I admire that. I do admire the fact that the loyalty survived and it's probably strong as it ever was. So hopefully we both live long enough to see Carlton enjoy better times.
Well, a premiership. Like a premiership.
Thanks, John.
Good on you, Mike.
This has been a Fox Footy production, part of the Fox Sports Network.